All right, it's 9 o'clock. We'll kick this off. Welcome everybody to the IFPD space meeting, we'll call it, for February 3rd, 2025. Thanks everyone for being here. Just go over, maybe we can go around and introduce ourselves for the folks that are maybe in the audience or online. So my name is Jason Shoma, Cooch County Commissioner representing District 4.
Adam Coe, County Administration Director.
Oh, Adam McIntyre, Cooch County Commissioner, District 3.
Drake Dill, Mayor of International Falls.
Mike Koscheck, Police Chief.
Betty Bergstrom, City Administrator.
Great, thank you. So the next step here, I guess we'll go over a little bit of our background of how we got here. I think there's been some public pressure, concern perhaps of the IFPD looking at options, and I think that's kind of what we're here to discuss today is the options, and discuss the space that we may or may not have available and the needs that the city may or may not have. So I don't want to get too far from the weeds. This is we'll take it light here, and you know, some of the history, some of the background. It's been a long-standing agreement between the city and the county for leased space over the course of the last close to 40 years. That has recently changed. A couple of years ago, the city opted to not renew the lease with the county and went in a different direction for reasons that they've already stated. So today we'd like to just kind of get the questions out in the air, or out in front of everyone here. I myself think this transparency has been fairly good. The decisions have been made in both entities. From the county's perspective, we had a building to build. We had a jail that we needed to update. We were having continual compliance situations with the existing jail. Staffing was fine. Everything on that end of it, everything was good. That the issue was the building itself. Continually, we felt as a board and as a community at that time that, you know, to move forward with the new jail facility to better provide the safety for the inmates and the staff. I mean, I think the design of the new is obviously better than the design of the old, and you know, obviously too, it's going to be a much better place to manage, be more efficient, and you know, all that stuff too. So some of the communications that we had with the city at that time were quite elaborate. At the time when we first started out, we were talking about remodeling this building and doing health and safety in this building. The price tag was, I think, over $30 million at that time. We went through that. I think Chief Koscheck and I don't know if Administrator Bergstrom were involved in that or not. I know the chief was, and you know, that went on for probably, I don't know, maybe close to a year. I was not involved at that time. I became involved after a couple of the other commissioners had left this board. So I didn't come in after the fact. I was well aware what was going on and what we needed to do. We had a little bit of a modification there, and then we received a letter, which you know, everybody has seen that letter of the lease, moving on from that lease. There was some adjustments to the cost for the lease, and then we received a letter from the city council that said they were going to move away from that lease, and then they obviously moved to Bacchus. So, and if any of this is if I'm construing anything, please let me know. Speak up, correct me. I don't want to tell the story for everyone. Obviously, this is a story of the perspective that I've seen since I've been on the POC committee as well as the space committee. So I'll move a little bit quicker. The space committee now consists of Commissioner McIntyre and myself, Adam Coe, and there's several other internal staff, directors and such that are on that committee that we brought in to see how best to utilize the space that will be vacant over in that area of the building and of the complex. You know, so everybody has needs. So we went over a lot of these needs from all the directors and all the departments and all the resources that are on this campus. And you know, we came up with ideas of what we can or can't do. We need a lot of storage space. Obviously, we need storage. So that was some of the discussion. But the first floor was kind of, you know, after some of the public concerns and stuff. You know, I think we kind of put that idea and plan on a little bit of the back burner for us. We're in no rush to get anything in there or do anything. There's really no plans for it at this point, specific plans that we've had or ever had. Very light discussion that we've had a couple of meetings, I think, has always had. So, I think that space would be available or an option to be available if so desired. And I think, we'd like to keep all our options on the table. So, at this, maybe I'll turn it over to Mayor Dale. I think this is kind of a request of the city to meet and kind of get this out in front of everybody here, and we'll just kind of get some different perspectives. So,
Thank
Mayor?
you, Commissioner. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and everyone who's attended. I will admit I'm a little bit light on knowledge of some of the history, being the new mayor of International Falls. I have bits and pieces. I did see the memo that I believe you sent out, Betty, to the county in preparation for this meeting, but it's not something that I have no more extra knowledge beyond that. Is what I can speak to is that there's a massive disconnect between city government and the constituents and their expectations versus what ours are as a city going forward. I heard that loud and clear when I ran for office. I don't think that has changed. So no matter what the decision that the council's going to make in regards to the space that the police are either going to occupy someday, I hope we can heal some of that up. I think it's largely misunderstood as to why there wasn't a deal to stay in the LEC to begin with. And I think really what spawned this meeting, I believe, was that the public came here to the county boardroom and had asked, is there a deal on the table for the LEC or not, or is it even an option? And I think is what we've determined is that it could be. Now I don't know which direction that's going to be pushed back at City Hall, but that's the point of this meeting. We had a committee of the whole 2 or 3 weeks ago. I would say it's very evident that the council wants to go a different direction with the police department. That would include putting the community most likely into bonded debt. As the mayor, I don't think that makes any sense. So I hope that we can work towards a strategy that's good for everyone in the community. We did receive, I believe, from Bacchus the opportunity to extend the lease there at a very reasonable rate. I'm sure compared to what moving to the old Kataska building or to the LEC, whether it's remodeled or not. So with that, Chief Koscheck and Administrator Bergstrom are here if they want to share some of the needs that they've determined that the forest needs and wants to go over. At your leisure, Commissioner.
Yes, please. Yeah. I know you've had a lot of discussion, and as we have as well. I mean, there's continual discussion about these projects. They don't just happen. They're over the course of years, not days or months even. So, if you want to give a timeline and maybe a brief history of the rundown of the needs and the kind of the reasons that we got to this point, I guess. So.
Sure, I can give a brief. As previous Mayor Droba had outlined just about a month ago, I believe, a couple months ago, at City Council on when this started, was, when the jail project was beginning, there was options of the city using funds to pay for capital improvements in that building. And if we spend money for capital improvements, we can't capitalize that as a city if we do that in somebody else's building. It's not ours. And that was a significant amount of money to do that. And the board at the time decided that wasn't the option they wanted to go, and that we wanted a space independent of any other organization. So that's just a very brief reason and why we're partly here today. We have been doing studies of what our needs are as well, as the county's been doing studies with all of their departments with what the needs may be. And it's in our memo, it's drafted, we need independent private space for security and private data sensitive information. And sharing space is not going to get us that. And the citizens, yes, they're questioning it, but we can explain why we need this and what we need. And so that's why we're here today. From what I'm reading from your memo, you don't have that. I don't believe sharing space, with how you've worded this in your memo, we're willing to share the space. And there's one garage space versus others. And so that, in my opinion, I'm just one person, this space that you outlined does not meet the needs of what we have discussed is necessary for our police department.
Thank you, Chief.
A lot of the points she made, I would concur with. I think when we began this discussion, this journey a couple of years ago, I think the main outline I had, and listen, leading the LAC was not easy for any of us, both on a personal level and professionally. Very difficult, especially for the senior members of our department. Not something I enjoyed doing. Very difficult. Relationships we had built over decades have been strained, as you noted. But since then, and being back, as we've accomplished some of the tasks I think go beyond the personal and interpersonal relationships, which are important. The goals we've accomplished are more important in ways that limit liability and liturgical things. And what I worry about, and I'm going to be honest with you, the only thing I really worry about with shared space, not that there may ever be an issue, but that I'm just trying to limit the possibility of an issue with our data and our privacy. And that was always about, like you said, I think there was, Commissioner, a lot of misunderstanding in the beginning about our reasons for leaving, and that we were upset with where we were at. We weren't. Like you noted in here, we've been here for over 40 years. I think in that time, law enforcement has changed, and I think you're seeing us a turn away from shared spaces into more of a single occupancy space. Now, whatever that means, we need control over our space and our employees and our operations as a police department. That's been the goal that we've had, and Bacchus has been kind of instrumental in showing us that, to be honest with you, because we've been able to control our space, expand in ways and areas we had never been able to in 40 years. As far as where we go, that's ultimately up to the council. My main concern, I've talked about this, is just having our own private area that we control and restrict access to as needed. And that's my main concern with the police department. So however and wherever that is, in the most cost-efficient manner, yeah, I'm willing to explore it.
When you talk, Chief, when you talk about shared space, my understanding was that the county
Do you have more of those?
was going
The
to
letters?
move,
Yes.
Yep.
that essentially
Yep.
the entire LEC was going to be available once the KCSO moves into the new jail. Was that the intent? I mean, obviously that hasn't happened yet. Our police force is in Bacchus. But if this is the mode of the meeting, maybe we should just adjourn it, because it's very obvious, Betty, that we're here to check a box. And that was my fear of today, and it's snowed over the weekend, and it's cold out, and we all have other things to do. So nothing's changed. We've called a meeting. The city council indicated at committee of the whole that they're in a big hurry for reasons that I'm not privy to, and that they want to bring it to a vote. And if that's what they need to do, I can accept that, and we all will have to, so.
Did you want me to walk through just the space we do have available, just so people understand it? I mean, I certainly can. I know they do. I mean, but
Well, this
when we
this is a public document, so anybody that wants to have this, take this, is certainly welcome to it. We just didn't share it immediately because we obviously wanted everybody to take a look at it prior to the meeting starting. So, and it was just kind of proof this morning, actually. So,
I have questions on it.
let me just walk through it a little bit first. That's okay?
Yeah.
When the county decided to build the new jail and sheriff's quarters, we didn't replace some of the space that we had in the old LEC, which is the basement space. Is a training room, and it's our emergency operations conference, and it's a pretty big space. And we didn't rebuild that over there just because it was cost prohibitive, and we wanted to, be efficient with what space we had available. So the sheriff's office plans to continue to use the basement. They can go weeks without being in the basement, but when they have trainings and when they have drills or emergency, they want to use that space. And I think that space was jointly used with the PD and the sheriff's office in the past. The first floor is completely available. I think it's about 9,000 square feet. It has
Is
nine
that
op-
including all the garage bays? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, I'm just taking the first floor office spaces, so that's 9,000 square feet. It's got the 9 offices. It's got the evidence rooms, the arms rooms, the break room, the property room. It's got, hard and soft interview rooms, kind of the stuff in your memo. It's got a big squad room. And that's the space that the city and county shared for those 40 years. They each occupied about half that space, is my understanding. The second floor of that building is the jail. And based on our conversations and review, to remove cells and make that usable office space was cost prohibitive. So we are looking at using it for secure storage, and there is probably some opportunity for some office space on part of that second floor, and we're just talking about how we best use that moving forward. Garage bays, we have 2 garage bays or 4 garage stalls. They're kind of split into 2 different garages. Again, we didn't build extra garages in the new project just because we were going to plan to reuse what we had. But we are open to letting the PD use one of those garage bays, which is 2 stalls. The county plans to keep one because they can't park in their other garage, is my understanding, just because it's the Sally Port and they have to keep it free to bring people in and out of. So they always keep, in the summer, they keep an emergency rescue boat, and they have a place to, park a squad if they need to. In the winter, it's their emergency rescue sled, and they want that stuff close and accessible to what they need. So one bay would be available for that. So based on the conversations with the sheriff's department and with the commissioners, that is the space we had available. So the rest of the letter just goes on to say if space is adequate, we would want some questions answered so we could start figuring out what it would cost or what rent might look like for that. So I guess maybe that's for future consideration if the council needs to look at comparing the memo space versus what we have available.
May I,
No.
Commissioner?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, not right now, thank you. We'll maybe give a little time at the end here for public comment.
That's
okay?
fine,
Thank
yeah.
you. I think, I won't speak out of turn, but, our space committee has also kind of discussed other properties as well to kind of make some adjustments depending on how this here goes. We're hoping that in the not too far away future that we can actually free up a couple more garage stalls there. So there'd be 2 bays, 4 stalls basically. That's going to, depending on how quickly that happens, is going to depend on this here, of course. I mean, we could either try to do it quickly or we could try to do it slowly. It just depends. I mean, some of the stuff that I'm talking about is some of the stuff to do with the highway department and that those types of moves there that'll free us up a little bit of space on site. But of course, that's obviously when we get moved into this building over here, we really can't do anything with that until the furnaces and all the heating equipment is hooked up. So that'll take a little time as well. But we've kind of looked and overviewed all of the facilities in this area at least, kind of best suit the need of what the community wants, I guess, and best suit what we can make work and make efficient. So we're really trying to maximize the space that we do have. We don't know that we need to necessarily always want to build a new building. If we can repurpose something, we'd like to do that. So.
I guess, that's what we have available, so I guess next steps for the city is that would go back to the council for discussion and consideration.
Right, correct. As far as I'm aware, we would take the county's, note back to our committee of the whole or our council meeting, and put it on the board, correct, in front of our council and discuss that.
Yeah, we certainly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Yeah, I want to, Adam and Commissioner Schobel, I want to thank you because, for the last many, many months, post-election, prior election, when I had been in contact with both of you, just informationally about some of these issues, I'm deeply aware that there always has been a want to work together on some of these things. And that stayed consistent, and I think that that's really important. We all have our different priorities and we've got to get to certain places, but this is a really important issue for our community. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Is there any questions on this drafted letter here that you have?
I had questions, I don't know if they were answered.
Oh, okay, anybody on the board here have any questions for that? That's it? I'm going to give the public a chance to talk here.
I'm not the public, I'm the city attorney.
Okay, but noted. But still, I'd just like to have, if there's any questions at this board here that they have to have answered, or are we okay moving forward?
I know you guys are familiar with the space, and do you kind of have an idea how you'd be able to split it up to make it work for you over here?
I don't think I'm here to negotiate.
Oh, no, I don't want to negotiate
I
at all.
I'm just here to offer what my thoughts were on how we would operate in a space where our needs are. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else here? All right, so okay, we'll open up, please.
Thanks. So the first floor, the 9,077 square feet, are you suggesting that's exclusive to the City IFPD?
It is available for other use, yep.
Exclusive, like we could lock doors, 100% theirs?
Yep, I think the sheriff intended to access the basement to the garage bays from the 8th Avenue, not coming through the public entrance, I guess. That was his intent. It is my understanding that, I don't know, maybe I have this wrong, but that officers have access into the LEC currently, and deputies have access into the PD currently. So, I mean, they are able to access each other's space, obviously for good relations. But yes, I think exclusively first floor would be available to the city, for the PD.
So the sheriff's office can get into the city PD can get into the sheriff's office currently?
That's my understanding, is they have badge access to each other's. Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah, we have thoughts for both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the shared space would be the basement?
Correct.
The entire basement?
Correct.
So not the 4,500, the 6,141?
Yes.
And when you say shared, does county maintain control of it and then the city asks permission to go in? Or how does it- how
I
does
think
it
we
go?
would need to discuss how that works. I think historically they work together on the needs for that space, and I think oftentimes, correct me if I'm wrong, did a lot of stuff jointly with when they're doing emergency operation drills or trainings.
I think just briefly, one of the issues with the bay, this is getting into the weeds a little bit in our discussion, but as an example, the basement, utilizing that, if we had dedicated training space for it, in the event of a flood, which you guys would need to use after, however many months out of the year, our trainings would have to be placed somewhere else, or wouldn't have to be available, and so that would be the only, that would be the issue, that we wouldn't have strict control over these spaces. And I think that was part of the discussion that I think we're going to have with what do we want to do here, and I don't know that this is probably the meeting we're going to be doing that at, but I don't mean to speak for anybody else.
No, you're fine.
So the answer then is it wouldn't be city exclusive, it would be county exclusive with city permission? That's what I'm trying to clarify.
No, I think it'd be shared, and whether we come
So-
up with a calendar or an understanding of how we use that space,
Jointly owned,
well, it would be part of the lease.
like a number of hours, number of days?
I don't know that we'd get into that level of detail, but if it needs to, I guess we would have to have conversations with the sheriff and the chief on how they would want to reserve or use that space or prioritize that space.
Okay. So the only thing concrete we have offered is the first floor 9,077 exclusive use. Other details haven't been offered at this point.
Well, I think we really need to know what the needs are, don't you? I mean, is this...
10,000 square feet
So
exclusive.
10,000 square feet exclusively, 9,177 square feet is what we have, so we're a little short on the 10,000. Do we need that extra 900 or 833 feet?
My concern is who's bringing the offer? So you're offering potentially shared space with no details. Can you offer details?
The detail, I mean, as I understood it, the offer is to use it as it was used for the past 40 years jointly, and that, I don't know,
And
I don't know
if you
how.
asked your county attorney, he would advise you not to do that because we need the details. It will never work if we don't have details on paper. Are you willing to go back and get us the details of that space?
Sure.
Chelsea,
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that's an issue. I think if it needs to be, and I agree, I think it should be specifically designated. And I think, and I don't know how these trainings work. Usually these trainings are set up over the course of a year. You usually have a plan of when these trainings are. I mean, I know that's the way it works because sometimes you have to schedule these things out. Some of them are maybe joint trainings, some of them maybe are not joint trainings. And from my understanding with Sheriff Headland, that, they may not go in that basement for 3 weeks, in a time. They may go down there once every 3 weeks. Again, I will reiterate, there's some of these other things that are happening that may alleviate that and eliminate that basement situation, perhaps. And I can't say that myself, but if we can, work together on something here, I really think that there can be some movement in a different area, in a different direction for the county that would potentially free up that space, other than going down to check the furnaces or whatever, the normal stuff say be. I mean, that's just my vision. That may not be Adam's or the board's vision. I think a utilized building is better than an empty building, to be honest with you, and I have no issue with full control of a building. It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I think if you have your keys, your fobs, you don't want anybody else in there, well, then so be it. That's the way it is. I get that. I understand that. I think that's controlling the inflow and outflow of staff and persons is extremely important, especially with what the police does. So, and it may sound like a cell, and it kind of is a cell, because it is a law enforcement center. It is a law enforcement center that was a law enforcement center. That the offices, there's nothing wrong with the offices. I mean, and that was a consideration when this jail was being built, is having the sheriff stay over there and having, I know you all are aware of that probably, having the sheriff stay in the offices over there, and then just when there's a need, walk over here. We had some dynamics change on our board. We really thought the safety was important to have people in the building, to have people available in one space. And I know there's the 8 to 5 people. They come in at 8, they go home at 5, and there's somebody there from 5 to whenever. However, you have the availability of people being able to be in the building if you need them, when you need them, instead of having to walk, through the building. We figured, you can run. It may take you 30 seconds, depending on who's running, obviously, to get to the other building. Therefore, the sheriff's department was moved over here, which obviously added cost. That dynamic did change on this to the city's behalf. That dynamic changed because at one time when we were planning on keeping them over there, and it changed throughout the early stages of the planning. It changed, and then we finally settled on having the sheriff's office over in this building to keep them on site. We felt that to be a safety concern for staff and inmates. Honestly, having people available, I think that's important. When you need them, you need them. And there's, that's just the way it is. So I mean, like I say, I can't speak for our whole board, but I really, looking ahead a little bit, if things were to go the way I'd like to see them go, I mean, I think we could have that separation. I really do. I think that there's ways that we can do that with, obviously other things have to fall into place. And those things haven't been pushed because of kind of where we're at right now. We're trying to discuss this and trying to move forward with, a plan or options at least. And the options go for us too. The options are, if there's exclusivity, in that building, well then we may have to figure something else out over the course of time.
Where were we at with our request? 10,000 square feet exclusive, 9 offices. Was that with the space?
That's the memo. Yep.
So I really want to avoid the animosity coming into these meetings, but so we requested 10. The county has 9, and then we just happen to have possibly access to this other area. And apparently there's already friction over it.
And that's why I think we need details.
Well, in the details would iron that out, I think. And I agree. I think, there has to be specific details for security purposes. I mean, you gotta know when people are coming and going, and, obviously there may have to be upgrades here too, right? So there may have to be some things that are done to make the space adaptable too, So, I mean, you look at one, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, some of the cost and stuff that we'd have to cost out as well, but to give it a true look, we got to know, obviously we do have to know the details to give it a true and honest look and what the actual needs are, whether that be an overview, a simple architectural survey, or, you want somebody, if you want somebody to come in and take a look at the space and say, hey, we want X, Y, and Z, what can you do? I mean, I think that's kind of the direction we've taken with other things that the county has taken on. That's actually the first step that you do, is just to kind of see what those needs are, and then once you get those needs, you identify them specifically to the space, and then you especially with adapting a space, new building, a little simpler. But I think with this here, you may want an office in the middle of the squad room, perhaps. I don't know, and whatever those needs may be, and if we, like I say, I think if we've exhausted that type of thought, well then then it's exhausted, and then we should move forward, and the city should move forward, and the county will move forward. If we're exhausted with that, if we're not going to get to that point, I guess I think we need a decision to move forward, in my opinion, with the city council to say, hey, yes, we want to move forward looking at this, before we spend a whole lot of time and effort to say, okay, let's get into the weeds. We'll get into the weeds. We can do that. But this is our first discussion that we've had. So, I mean, if it's the last one, then we'll know. Everybody will be on the same page, and then we can move forward. And if there's more discussion needed or wanted, then we'll move forward just in that direction.
Commissioner, the council was really adamant at our committee of the whole, about moving ahead without delay. So that could even be added to tonight's agenda.
I don't think they're not adamant at moving out without delay. We need to look at all of our options. We need to discuss all of it. I don't think they're in a hurry. I think they said that they'd like to visit it again on the February 10th meeting. Or not February 10th, excuse me, the next city council meeting.
Okay, and my recollection was February 10th, and that we had to have a deal whether we were moving ahead with Kraus Anderson or whether we had a deal cut with the county by the end of the month. That was what my understanding and what was in my notes from that committee of the whole. If that's the case,
I
I just want to be transparent.
Well, we are, and I think that's the discussion. They just wanted it brought back to the council for further discussion.
And that's February 10th, you said?
That's our committee.
That's committee of the whole,
Oh, okay.
yes. Yep.
And another thing we could consider as a council is doing a study. We've historically had money to study everything else, and so if we did a study, we could probably buy some time and get somewhere perhaps different, or maybe we need more space.
Please.
And I'm not familiar with how far you guys went with the LAC. Did you guys ever do any kind of study, just not for renovation purposes for us, but just an overall study of the space?
Some decommissioning stuff, but nothing specific for any needs that you may or may not have. So we didn't get
I just
any
was
of
wondering,
that.
because you mentioned keeping the sheriff's department over there, if there was discussion on that end of it.
At that time, we did not have any plans to that. That really was kind of a change order, you might say, a change in the dynamics, to have the sheriff in this space over here. And and I think deep down everybody knew that was the right thing to do, but obviously it's money. It costs extra money to build an office over here when we have an office there. Well, then we looked at the overall thing. Then you look at the big picture. You look at the decline in the population, the decline in services, and how many, and some of this remote work stuff that we're looking at. There's lots of opportunities here, I think, to say, and we're not a Hennepin County where we have thousands of people working for us. But if there's some space that we can save, and people can work from home and it works better for them to do these types of things, we can save some space, so we can kind of downsize our space a little bit is kind of what we're thinking, and I'd be talking probably 15 or 20 years ahead, which, you know, obviously is probably not okay, but when you look ahead, that's the trend I see happening. And, you know, looking at that, yes, there's opportunities for that space being utilized, I think, over the course of time, whether it be with this situation here or whether it be with some other situation. So, you know, space is a premium. We're running out of it here, at least on this campus here. So, but again, you know, I speak for myself and what I see and what I think, and I think most of the commissioners see that ahead a little bit too. I think they see the writing on the wall with some of the needs and the wants of the community, and they've been, you know, obviously been involved too with some of these discussions at our committee of the wholes. So, discussing this meeting here specifically. So, but you know, not to, you know, sway or decide. I mean, obviously it is a council decision. That's the entity of government that this came from, and that's the entity of government where it has to come from. So this isn't necessarily it isn't at all a county decision, honestly. We have a space that's available, and you have a need that you may have, and it may work for you or it may not. So, and that's kind of this perspective to keep things civil. I think that's the way to go. Now, do I think it's, you know, the right thing to do to move into that space and renovate it? That's what I think. But what I think is maybe what the community thinks and what the city council thinks. So what I think personally, you know, I really want you guys to work together, to have that camaraderie amongst each other. You're all doing similar things, and yeah, you may have a different style and a different way of doing it and different styles, I think. But overall, you know, you want everybody to be safe at the end of the day, and I think that's what everybody wants. So, you know, the discussions in the public has kind of went down the wrong path so far. So, you know, I think that needs to be kind of halted a little bit and maybe slowed down a second, you know, people to get a real good look at what's going on. So.
I just want to say, and I am the one that set the semi-timeline of February, for one, so we could get it moving, because one thing I've learned in life, especially my own personal life, if you don't have some type of deadline, it just keeps getting booted. So, I mean, it's not set in stone or anything. I would think at this time, I think we do have to go back and talk about it, and I would not call this a box checking meeting or an effort. I wouldn't have brought it up back in November to get back to talk to about this with the county. My time's as important as everybody else's that's here, and I wouldn't waste it. But we will go back and we'll talk about it, and that's all I wanted to say, and that's where it came from. We got it, and if it goes longer, that's fine. And there's things like you said, the weeds. I mean, I don't, you know, things like the basement squad room and using the training room, EOC, well, some of those things we're going to be using during the same thing, I would imagine, right? It's Emergency Operations Center. But that being said, I'm glad we got together to get this started. We can go back and talk about what we have here, and that's just my thought. And I would also like to commend the county again in public for making decision to move the whole sheriff's office over there, being somebody that worked in the jail. So, and I know when we're low on numbers for help and assistance and things like that, and and I know, and Bacchus has been wonderful with these, but I also, like I said, wanted to let them know as soon as we can, whether it's in February or it's just, maybe it's next September, so they have an idea what's going on. And that's all that was. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Pete. Anybody else have any addition here?
Please.
I want to know, you know, and I don't know, are we okay to, you know, to take a little public comment? I think we'll just keep it very organized, and you know, 2 to 3 minutes, and just kind of, you know, obviously please keep it civil and respectful. This is a respectful group of people, professionals as well, and we really do want to keep it respectful and appropriate. So, and if there's any questions too, and I thought about that, as you know, if there's any questions, please write down the questions and give them to the appropriate persons. You know, to get the actual answer. I think that's important as well. You know, if you have a question, please ask the appropriate person to ask, and if they don't know anyone from this group here, they'll certainly get the answer that you're looking for, you know, as quickly as we can. So, but I'd open it up this time, please. Again, 2-3 minutes, if you wish. if everyone here okay with doing that?
Jason, if I can add, if I can expound on what you just said, that's a really key point, I think, in all of this, is folks asking questions is great, but you need to ask the right people. You need to ask more than just one person out in the street, or you need to ask the questions of the people who have the answers of what the past history has been. There's a lot of history here that there's a lot of people who don't understand it, and how we've got to where we are today and why we're here today. And so please ask the questions, because you know what? As a city administrator, I'm not getting those questions. I haven't heard a lot of this coming from the public. So that's why please ask, or come and visit with me. Tell me the feelings and thoughts to help me understand more of it. So, thank you.
Great. Anyone else before we hand it off?
So
Okay.
we can't bring something up for a minute?
Well, we can, just a couple, but we're going to limit it to 2 minutes. I think just...
It's kind of hard to hear over here.
Well, I believe, yeah. I mean, if you have a constructive comments, I think that's very appropriate for this group, and you have elected folks here, and that maybe need to hear it. The public needs to hear it, and if it pertains to what we're doing here, then that I think that's very appropriate. So, but like I say, we give you a couple 3 minutes. So anyone that wishes to speak, their piece, please do that. And thanks for being patient with it too. We just wanted to get through the business a little bit here and get through some of the table discussion, and I don't want to cut anybody out, but you get on it. And no disrespect to your position, believe me. So
I was invited to the table. I just chose to sit back here.
Oh,
so it wasn't
well,
really
gosh, we'd have got you a chair. Please, I apologize
okay.
for that. I'm sorry. Anyway, please, if you have something, Julie.
Yeah, I've just been sitting here thinking, such a big discussion, whatever. I think it basically should be put out to the people to vote on this. We are the people to make a decision. We pay the people. We pay a lot of money for different things. And I think it should be put out to the public to vote on the decision to make over this. Because certain counselors, it's not going to work. And I know which ones. I've been watching. And they don't work for the people, so I just think it should be put to vote.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's good.
All right. Anyone else? Please, Lois.
Just for the people in this room, my name is Lois Lundin. I'm from Bacchus Community Center. Bacchus does have what I feel is a very viable and a workable solution, whether it's temporary or long-term. My request today is to the city and to the PD that you please consider that realistically, openly, given the position of the public and their concerns for our financial positions in our community. I just ask that you really look at that and give it fair consideration as you look at your options.
Thank you, Lois.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Anyone online have any comments? Anyone? Last call. All right. Do we need to have further discussion, or we kind of wait and see what happens here with some of the committee of the whole stuff? Would that be appropriate? Do we want to set a date, or we just kind of want to play it by ear for a second?
I think we could add it tonight to the city council meeting for discussion. The public has made it very clear that they want a voice in whatever the outcome is, whether it's what they want or not. So it can be added this evening, but I would add that maybe there needs to be some more discussion internally about how this negotiation or discussion is, where that's going to land, or what the real desires are going forward. So.
Well, and I would second that as well with the city attorney. If there's questions, specific questions that you want answered regarding the document that you received today, please, see if we can at least iron that out. And if that can, be a possibility or whatever, that would be great. Then we'll just have a little bit more information to take back and figure out some numbers and things like that. So.
If there's any questions on, the space available, or you need someone at those meetings to speak on behalf of the county, please let me know.
Right. Yes.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
So the garage bays, there's 4 garage stalls. You got the sally port, the 2 stalls there, and then the 2 garage bays. So you're saying
One bay.
so the sally port with the 2 stalls, and the other 2, there'd be 1 bay available to PD.
Correct.
That would be the sally port side or the other side?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know which one he intended to.
We do a lot of search warrants on vehicles and stuff like that, storage. If we have to forfeit a vehicle, we got to pull property and whatnot out. So there's a concern there for me. I do work with the officers when they're forfeiting vehicles and stuff like that. If they're doing a search warrant, there's a real space problem there with that. But so I'm just.
As in the one bay wouldn't be big enough? Is that what you're saying?
We would need, to me, I mean, we're a busy enough department that we need all the space we can get. So we're pulling vehicles off the road, we're doing search warrants, we're taking property out, and I don't know if you've seen a search warrant on a vehicle with people put their entire lives inside of one vehicle, so you're pulling property out, you have to have plenty of room.
Sure.
You got one little stall to work with, especially if the county's trying to store stuff and whatnot. You're running into space problems there, right? I'm just being honest with you.
In regard to that, just from my understanding, that's in relation to the garage stalls over here at the LEC that you're discussing.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it says on here 1 garage bay.
Okay.
So,
Because I'm just wondering, unless something's changed at Kutaska, I don't think there's any garage space at all.
no, but we utilize, right now, we have to go over to the city garage and pull stuff out.
Okay.
And we have a property room over at Kutaska. If we have something, we have to bring it up into our property room up there. There's different things we do right now to try to make it work. So we're kind of moving stuff around. So.
Thank you.
Great. If there's nothing else, thank y'all for being here. Thank you for participating, and thanks to the public for paying attention. And we'll look forward to hearing one another. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.